Of course, this is part of the dystopian future that we so often hear about, but I actually am a radical optimist, and I'm a person who looks at the nature of humanity. And the reality is the second mega trend, which has been going on for much longer than technology, is humanity. And what's interesting about humanity, whether it's nature-built, evolution, or spirit-built, is that we inherently need to have purpose beyond self to be fulfilled. And Maslow, for example, who so often is quoted, most people never read his work, but quote him all the time, was the first person to really subtly study healthy people. That was what his work was about. And foundationally to that wasn't the 5 steps of evolution to self-actualization. It was that to be happy and fulfilled, you actually need to have purpose beyond self. And this is built into us unless somebody's a sociopath or has other disorders that come in. So today we have all this power emerging in society that's radically transforming everything, and it's meeting humanity's need to have purpose beyond self and for us to choose purpose. So I really feel like the future of jobs foundationally, as you'll hear about today in my talk and in that article, is about us helping people to align with their deepest, fullest purpose. Because we're living in the era now where people can live their dreams to a much greater extent because of the power coming from the democratization of access to capital, the democratization of access to technology. The power in your hand here that was attributed to a god just 100 years ago, all of a sudden is in the child's hands. And that child in a purpose-driven inspiration, working with other humans in a way that you can't work with a computer. There are aspects of the human experience when you join genius, when you bring genius together, where 2 or more are gathered, that creates radical newness in a way that technology doesn't. A terabyte of processing capacity plus a terabyte is 2 terabytes. 2 human beings together joining genius in a co-creative state that are purpose-driven. 1 plus 1 is not 1. It could be 7, it could be 10, it could be 27. This is the nature of why humanity is really the future of technology. Humans are still what it is about here. We are not getting replaced. We are not getting marginalized by technology. We are the ones that have the choice. And as Barbara Marx Hubbard, my 25 years speaking and writing partner, has said since the late 40s, do we choose evolution by choice or evolution by chance? Well, what do we choose here? And we as leaders, we're really here to create the new stories for society. The new stories are what are needed when you have radical change in society, both in countries, whether it's towns, villages, tribes, or at a global era of change. So today, we must be thinking about what are the new stories that will lead us forward, that are non-sectarian, that are inclusive, that empower purpose, that empower empathy, that empower the unique qualities that are our humanity. Because those are foundationally what will never go away and what will define how this power is used. The radical transmission of power to our hands today and creativity that can be used for good or bad. I look at going forward here, the future of work is not artificial intelligence, and it's just, it's just software. We have all these, articles and dystopia and everything, and, it's software matched up with a lot of processing capacity. And when it gets to AI, which is probably the most misused term in technology in the world today, you have to get to very, very large data sets and feedback loops and all these things. And most of these things called AI are really the software, whatever that is. And it's powerful software, cool, all right. We get to actually get rid of some menial jobs in our society with that. And let people open up to the future work, which is really about being human and bring out the best of humanity further. And one of these human qualities here, I was writing this presentation last night, a little bit after our dinner, and was sitting out there and looking at the winery, and I made this list. I wasn't like doing Google search. And I said, well, to me, what really is not able to be taken away from humanity? I mean, even things here like delayed gratification. In fact, as a human being, we can sit there and logically say, I don't need to have this piece of candy right now. I don't need to do this something to just have an instant high. I actually, for example, love someone or love something or believe in something enough like perhaps freedom, perhaps democracy, perhaps my child. You know, is technology ever going to actually be taught to really be able to do that and to make the irrational choices that we make as well as the loving choices? And so look at this list, and there's so much more. I made that list in 5 minutes. And when you reflect on who you are as a being, you, what part of you can technology really replace? Truly, you know, think about that. The dystopian view is not the future. We are living in a future of great abundance, greater purpose, greater love, greater empathy, greater connectivity, greater sustainability, greater freedom at every level. And this is trickling down, you know, through society. You can look at almost any statistic in society globally over the last 25 years, 50 years, 100 years, and you see massive improvement, whether it's in, you know, levels of childhood death, potable water. And I know there's lots of crises we can talk about, but the mega trend is very good. And this is the direction we continue to head because human beings do care, and we're not using this power right now to build additional billions of nuclear bombs or whatever the next catastrophic thing is. We already have mutually assured destruction there, so we've checked that one off. How about if we don't focus any more energy on that? So as we go here, you know, as Barbara said so long ago, what is the meaning of our power that is good? This is my dear writing and speaking partner so long just passed a couple months ago, and the next book that we're working on is called Living in Exponential Creativity. And that's really what we're talking about here. That's what you're walking into today. In fact, the people in this room live it, and the people of the whole planet are going to be living in exponential creativity. So how can we prepare for the future of work? At least just a few thoughts. We certainly have to address education. People have been talking to that wisely. Encourage entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is one of the most powerful tools in the history of humanity. You know, it is the tool of how you actually manage and affect change with directionality. Being a mother is entrepreneurial, but also being a business person is entrepreneurial. This is the tool of how you actually manage with limited constraints, create newness, create results that you want. And having taught at Babson College and been entrepreneur residence there for over 5 years, and went to Babson where we are about entrepreneurship, and so many other schools are, this is a tool that we need to bring in to the educational zeitgeist at whole other levels, because it allows somebody to have key understanding of things like change and management, but also we have to teach foundationally in education new techniques. Adaptability is not something that humans do easily. We've been built very linear. Our basic wiring from 10,000 years ago and 5,000 years ago, you know, the buffalo are crossing the prairie, and you know, if we cut them up over there, we can get ahead of them, and then we can get a buffalo for dinner. Well, that's a pretty linear, kind of almost geometric equation. You know, today things are shifting so quickly that we have to retool education in new areas, and adaptability is one of the key things that we have to teach besides entrepreneurship for the education of the future. And I think we have to choose optimism. Optimism is so important, and I'm a radical optimist here and believe in abundance. As for example, Dr. Peter Diamandis, who's my teacher and partner for years here and teaching me, he's written his book Abundance and Bold, and you know, very much encourage you to read treatises like that as opposed to the negative alternatives of what the future brings. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, was asked to talk about, is the innovation that I've created as CEO of LifeGuides. And LifeGuides is a company that has a very simple mission statement. We're growing a platform for caring people to do extraordinary good. And within the next 15 years, we believe that we can create millions of jobs that pay a living wage that have never existed on the planet before. This is a classic blue ocean strategy. We're creating as opposed to competing. We're meeting a need in society in a way that hasn't been met before, with a mixture of technology and commerce that actually serves humanity's needs and makes a lot of money in the process. And our goal before we get into that model is within 15 years to reduce suffering and struggle for 1 billion people on the planet. Because as we know, unfortunately, one of the greatest growth enterprises in history is human suffering. And we look at every crisis on the planet as an opportunity. It's an entrepreneurial opportunity. This is what I study. These are the worlds I work in. These are the entrepreneurs I hang out with. How do we take every crisis and make it into the greatest opportunity for innovation, for profit, and for living in purpose? So when we look at LifeGuides here, I've got a little video here that's something I did about a year ago. This is kind of on the vision, but at a very simple level before playing that to give you a little context. Foundationally, what our business model is people go through life challenges. Your home might have burnt down in a wildfire last night. You might have found out your 4-year-old son has leukemia. Your mother might have dementia. You might be freaking out about a first child. You might be unsure how to get your first apartment with your new job. These are life challenges. They define who we are. And actually, between age 20 and 70, in a developed economy like the United States, 90% of stress and struggle and suffering does not come from mental health issues or health issues personally. It comes from struggling with life challenges. So we realize that this is an area that so many people, particularly the mass in the middle, we're really having trouble dealing with. And as we have radical escalation of the complexity of life and the challenges of life in society, we also so often don't know our neighbors. We don't have the support systems. The family nexuses have gotten broken. The thin social media data isn't enough. So what model has always existed for millennia that humans used is they helped each other. They mentored or guided each other. If you were living in a village 100 years ago and your son got disabled by a tractor this morning, and what would you do? 100 years ago, you'd go talk to Mort or Bill or Mary and say, hey, that happened to your son 20 years ago. What did you learn? What can I learn from you in this? So that's part of the reason why the founder of Match.com was one of my first partners. We have a matching platform that brings people together to help each other. Those guides are trained, quality controlled, background checked, and they're on a platform that offers support in over 200 life challenges. We've invited corporate America in the beginning, for a global platform, corporations to offer us as a benefit for their employees. Because those corporations not only want to enhance their culture of caring, and when you're supporting your employees in that gap, the big gap of their life challenges, your employees know they care, that you care. But it's much more than that. It's much more than that. It's reducing presenteeism loss, reducing absenteeism loss, increasing energy, vitality, creativity, because your employees bring their life into work. If your home burnt down last night in the wildfire, what does that do to your workability in the next 10 years, next year, next 2 years, whatever the number is? How about if somebody was there immediately that could talk to you and said, I went through that 5 years ago, this is what I picked, and you picked that person. It's not a crisis line. You can work with that person in long-term intentional support. It's human to human. It's the model that's always worked, and all we're doing is using exponential technologies in the simplest way. Internet, database management, a telephone, one of those great exponential technologies to bring people together. So here's a little video on what we call vision, and broadly we look at human life experience and wisdom and empathy as the largest asset on the planet. We want to match that up. We want to match that up to heal. So can we play that video, please, Jonathan?
Great businesses are not born out of great ideas. They are born in answer to great needs. It's with this belief in mind that we are embarking on a journey to reduce human suffering all over the world. When we look at our modern lives, we see a gap in how we have chosen to use technology to better ourselves. We're smarter, we're faster, we're more efficient. But are we more compassionate? Are we more understanding? Have we lost some of what makes us human in an attempt to keep up with those around us? What would happen if instead of using technology to invite people into the highlights of our lives, we used it to welcome people into our realities, into the pain? For every struggle that someone faces, every loss, every setback, there are countless others who have walked that same path and seen it through to the other side. We wish to tap this well of human experience and put it to work to reduce the isolation of people suffering all over the world. Imagine that when tragedy came knocking at your door, you knew right where to turn. That in the midst of life's hardest challenges, you were only a click away from someone who had walked this same road, someone who knew how to guide you towards hope. We seek to bring this dream to life, to create a world in which nobody is left to navigate the fear of uncertainty, where we once again look to our elders for answers to life's biggest questions, a world where our technology enhances our humanity instead of distracting from it. To those of you who feel the importance of this, who feel its potential, come and dream with us. We are on a mission to reduce the suffering of 1 billion people in the next 15 years.
And how do we actually optimize that? The key thing is to match it up. And that's really where it gets disintermediated in our society today. So our platform brings it together with corporations as a partner. And many significant corporations have already adopted our platform. We're excited that people understand the power of reducing suffering for their employees and doing this in a highly economic way. It's not coaching, it's not therapy, there's no judgment, there's no diagnosis. And we do that because we're using paraprofessionals who are getting about $20 an hour to work. Again, more than Uber pays. We do that in a way that's so radically affordable to corporations that they can adopt it easily. Because for $30 or $40 a year per employee to be able to offer that type of benefit, 12 hours a year support for each spouse is amazing. And so I just say, as we're clicking through this, the future of work is unlocking our greatest potential. And it's really about purpose, and it's about new models also. And LifeGuides is just one of those models where we can really innovate the future. We can live in greater purpose. The guides in our platform are giving their gift, they're helping others. We're creating new jobs that never existed before through technology, not taking them away. We're birthing a new generation of purpose, of meaning, of connection, of empathy, and really the future is one of abundance and beauty for us all. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.